Hello, friends. I'm hoping that everyone can see and that you're excited for today's guest. I'm very excited. We're just waiting for Vanessa to join us. I would love to hear what people are up to today with their dogs. Anything exciting? Do you have snow there? We have a little bit of snow here. And anyone watching that has got a puppy? Have you acquired a puppy? Is that why you're tuning in? I'm very excited for Vanessa to join us today. Do, 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 do. Hello, friends. Is everyone ready for the holidays? Because I know that I still have lots to do myself. But it will be nice to have a bit of a break. Is anybody else out there getting a break? I hope so, because it seems like a very busy time of the year for a lot of us. And it'd be nice to have a little bit of a break myself. So I'm going to be taking off a little bit of time, a couple of days here and there, which would be great. And hopefully we don't have to restart this. Just waiting for Vanessa to show. Yay. Hello. How
Hi,
are
sorry
you?
about Good, how are you?
That's okay. No worries. There's always technical difficulties that we have to work through, right?
Always. It would be boring without them.
So I'm glad that you're joining us. I think that
Yes.
a lot of folks are very interested in what we have to talk about today.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, yeah. Are you finding, well, first of all, let's introduce you to our audience. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Vanessa Charbonneau. I'm the owner and head trainer of Sit Pretty Pet Services. We're based out of Prince George, BC, and we cover kind of the northern portion of British Columbia. I've been a certified dog trainer for just over 7 years now, I guess. And prior to that, I was a registered veterinary technologist. So I've always worked with animals, and I just kind of steered down a different road, I guess, the last 7 years. So yeah, that's sort of my story.
Excellent. And so would you consider yourself a puppy sort of specialist? Is that what you like to focus on in your work?
I wouldn't say specialist. I think that puppies are a huge part of what I work with on a daily basis. But I would say that I specialize more in fear and aggression now, and I've kind of recently steered my business more in that direction. So that does not exclude puppies, unfortunately. Under that title, I still offer puppy training, so I still do puppy classes because I feel like prevention is huge for most of our dogs, and starting them young is really one of the best things we can do for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you seeing more puppies since the pandemic started? Have you noticed an increase at all?
I've definitely noticed that there are a lot of people bringing dogs into their homes. So whether that's puppies or adopting dogs from shelters, at one point during the pandemic, our local SPCA was empty. They had nothing in it, which is, I think,
Wow.
the first time that has ever happened for them. So dogs are coming into people's homes for sure. I would say that I'm seeing more puppies for different reasons recently. So it's not this typical, I have a new puppy, I'm not really sure where to start. It's more, I have this puppy and here's what's going on. We're having these problems. So we're seeing more puppies come in for different reasons than we might previously.
So yeah, are you what are the types of things that you're seeing that you
A
haven't?
lot yeah, a lot of referrals from veterinarians. So I think the
Mhm.
biggest challenge there is that owners are not allowed to accompany their dogs into most clinics right now, and these puppies are struggling to have positive experiences at the vet, and the vets are kind of dealing with this on their end. It's difficult to treat these puppies and give them their vaccinations and do whatever they need to do. So I'm getting a lot of people being sent their way from their vet who has told them that, hey, your puppy has some problems. They're fearful of new people. They're not tolerant of handling. They're showing us all these things. So a lot of fearful puppies I'm seeing a lot of fearful puppies, which is not I mean, it's not something new by any stretch of the imagination, but it's I think that the frequency is a bit startling for sure.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we talk a little bit about just what is optimal socialization? Like, what should people be thinking about when we say socialization?
Yeah, so I always like to explain socialization is it's definitely a period. There's a window. So there's a window of time where our puppies are more sort of malleable or open or curious about novelty that they come across in their daily lives. And this is the time that we really want to be exposing them to the world, because the sociability sort of outweighs the fear during this time. So that's sort of a debated period of time, anywhere from 6 to 14 weeks of age might be considered the socialization window. After that period of time, our dogs or our puppies start to approach things with a little bit more caution. So I've never seen that before, and it's a bit worrying to me. So we really want to encourage puppy owners to focus heavily on socialization during that window of time. So when they first get their puppies, so they're getting their puppies around 8 weeks of age, hopefully no sooner than that. So their socialization window has already started. So they really have a finite period of time to capitalize on socialization. And then the second thing I like to explain to puppy owners is it's not just about exposing the puppy. So it's not just saying my puppy has seen this, 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 and this. It's about sort of the experience they have during that exposure. So we have a lot of sort of pressure on us as puppy owners to make these experiences good, so that our puppies go forward in life thinking, you know, the mailman made hot dogs fall from the sky. I love the mailman. Or I met other dogs and I had a great time. I enjoy being around other dogs. So it's really about the quality of these exposures, and what experience our puppy is getting out of them. So that's sort of, I guess, the nuts and bolts of socialization. I mean, we could dive down that rabbit hole and be here for hours.
Yeah, for sure. So if I mean, with what's going on right now with you know, not having as much access to strangers and even just regular guests coming to the home, at least what I'm seeing is that with the lack of that happening, is that people coming to visit is weird, is strange, and it's causing responses from dogs that are not optimal. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What are some things that people could be doing to the best of their ability to offset the effect that this may have?
Yeah, that's tricky because we're not sort of in a position to be inviting people to come to our doors. The beautiful thing is we can teach our puppies that strangers are good without having physical interactions with them. So our puppies don't need to be handled by these people to create positive associations. So out and about outside of the house is a great time to expose them to strangers and make these positive associations that strangers are good. When, you know, people come to our door sort of naturally, so delivery people, at a distance, a safe and healthy distance, making that stranger or that visitor predict good things. So this stranger predicts hot dogs, this stranger predicts, you know, praise and lots of happy stuff. And just being cautious that we now not only have to worry about sort of our puppies' health risks, so disease exposure risks, but we also have to think about ours. But we can do this from a safe distance. We do not need to be within 6 feet of strangers to teach our puppy that strangers are good. But we do need to get them some mileage there. So some mileage with people. So strangers, you know, we can't just work with one person and say, yep, my puppy's good with strangers. We need to, you know, it needs to be repeat exposures to different people and different types of people and different ages of people and all of that stuff to help our puppy generalize that strangers as a whole are not something to be worried about.
Yeah, it almost has to be a daily effort, to a preventative effort to
Yeah.
work on this stuff. I mean, it's easy for you and I to sort of predict the future in terms of what is likely going to happen if people aren't doing this.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard for the average person to really fully grasp the potential of the downfall if they are not working on this with their puppies. Home alone, do you include that as part of socialization as well? Because more people are at home all the time.
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, anything that's potentially novel to our puppies, we need to socialize them to, if you want to use that broad heading. So being alone, yeah, that is a novelty for most of our dogs right now because our lifestyles have changed so much. So that one's a little bit challenging, I find too, because it requires a lot of effort on our end. We actually have to, you know, go out of our home when maybe we're not normally doing that right now, to help our puppies realize that, you know, this is okay as well. I can handle this. I'm going to be fine. So yeah, anything that's new and novel and anything that's going to be something that's going to be part of your puppy's life in the future. So potentially you're working from home right now and you're not worried about your puppy being home alone because it's not relevant to you. But what happens in 9 months or a year or who knows when you're back in the office 5 days a week and your puppy has never been alone in their life, and now they're, you know, this 1.5 years half old adolescent, and this is really alarming to them. So we need to think ahead to down the road, what might life look like? And it's hard to do that, but I just like to really broadly expose these puppies. So yeah, maybe this is going to happen to you. I'm not sure. Let's make it a good thing anyway, so that when it does, when you do come across it, it's not this super stressful experience for you.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to keep in mind that even once the socialization window closes, which we think, gosh, could be anywhere between 12 and 18 weeks. We just don't know that specific number.
Yeah.
Once they are then going into adolescence and then becoming adults, we don't just stop making that concerted effort for them to have positive experiences.
Exactly.
Are you seeing, I'm personally seeing adolescent dogs that are suffering because of, people not coming over, and now it's scary for them. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that, and like I mentioned already, a lot of reports of fear at the vet. And even I find people are less open to, or less actively exposing their dogs to other dogs as well. So, but people at the front door is a big one, right? Because it's uncomfortable for us, or maybe puts us in an awkward position to have someone coming to the front door to practice this with, because there's a lot of logistics that go into it. So it's easier for us to brush it aside and say, I'll do it later. And then later comes and it's already a problem, right?
Yeah, a reminder to folks, if they don't know about fear-free certified vet clinics, and even if they have techs in the clinic, that's a great sign too.
Yeah.
They're not all fully fear-free certified, but especially in these times, those vet visits they're really tough, because I think it's almost harder for the adult dogs than it is for the puppies, because the puppies, their first few visits, they don't know any better,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but these adolescents and adult dogs, now it's like they're being separated, and it's already somewhat scary. So if you're lucky enough to have some fear-free certified vet professionals, then definitely tap into that. But yeah, I think it's this, if we're insulating these puppies, we're from the real world, we're in for some trouble, which we definitely don't want. And I'm also seeing, just going back to what you said about your local shelter being pretty much empty. I think that's pretty common right now, and
Mhm.
I think, I don't want to say for a fact that there is an increase in backyard breeding and unscrupulous breeders, but I think that there's always somebody out there that is trying to capitalize on what's going on. And I think there are people that want a puppy, and they want a puppy now.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people that they want a puppy and they want it now, and they're willing to get a puppy from anywhere?
Yeah, I think this is a huge supply and demand issue, is that there's opportunity to make some money on puppies right now, and people don't always care about how they do that. And then I also think that we get back in March, especially when we're all shut inside and we're bored and we're thinking, well, this is a great time to get a dog. I'm home, I have all this time on my hands, which I do get that, but it's almost more important now to really be vetting the dogs that we're bringing into our homes, because a lot of these breeders that are pumping out litters of puppies are not breeding with genetics in mind. They're not evaluating the dispositions of the breeding pairs. They're not, taking the time to do early exposure or socialization. And we're getting these really these puppies who really don't have a great start, or a great foundation right out of the gates coming into our homes. And then unbeknownst to us, we have all of this work cut out ahead of us. So I understand the drive to bring an animal into your home, especially when we're spending all this time at home. But we need to be careful about how we do that. And we really need to be asking a lot of questions. So we should be interviewing the breeder about, we should be asking them all of the questions. And if they don't have answers to those questions, we should be should be making note of that, and that should be a red flag. So really, really vetting where our puppies are coming from. You know, the Kijiji ads are just a death trap for some potentially, I say, some really some puppies who are going to struggle moving forward.
Well, and just talking about breeders, at what age can breeders be socializing or should be socializing puppies?
They should be socializing pretty early on. I mean, I don't know if there's an age that's too soon, but I think they say as early as 2 to 4 weeks. We really want to be, I mean, you're not taking these puppies out for play dates, but you know, different surfaces, different sounds, household items like the blender and the vacuum, different, if you have cats in the house, if you have kids in your house, obviously, again, we're not able to invite a bunch of visitors over to handle these puppies. But there's so much more than just dogs and people that is involved in socialization. And a really good breeder should be addressing some of that stuff before they go, long before they go to their forever homes. And that's going to give our puppies that extra leg up on socialization because they've already seen a bunch of this stuff. You know, loud noises aren't startling to them because they've lived in the house amongst these normal distractions already. So the earlier, the better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as part of the screening process, when you're talking to a breeder, is asking how much and what socialization they have already been doing. And if these dogs are living outside in a barn or something, you might want to think twice because they're not getting the proper socialization.
Yeah, they're not getting the handling. They're not getting, you know, just that, all of the things that we don't even think about that our dogs have to experience for the first time. It's not happening when they're not included in the family. So yeah, I really prefer breeders who are raising their puppies indoors as part of, you know, their normal group of dogs. I think that versus out, you know, in the shop or in the
livestock.
dog run or
It sounds bad, but it is very similar, right? Yep. So Katie here on Facebook, she says, I worry that once we are all vaccinated and can travel again, the shelters will be filling up fast with all the juvenile dogs that people got during lockdown that they won't have time for. I really hope that doesn't happen.
I think the shelters are worried about that too. I mean, it's my understanding that the adolescent period is the most common time for dogs to be relinquished to the shelter anyways. And we're kind of coming up on that now. You know, if people are getting puppies in March, they're starting to enter into that phase of life and realizing that this dog is not, it's a responsibility, and it's going to be a responsibility for some time. And I hope that's not the case, but I have that worry as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So top tips for people bringing home a puppy. They're going to focus on all the right things. The right things are going to be the socialization, of course, proper socialization, which we've talked about what that is versus just exposing them to things. What are some ideas that you can give people that they could be doing daily in terms of getting them out and taking them to different places and what that should look like when people approach them? And
so I mentioned earlier that there's always risk of disease for our puppies as well. So being conscious of where you're taking your puppy is really important. If you're worried about you know, busy dog places, puppies can be carried if they need to, or you can stick to sidewalks versus grass. New places is really exciting for all of our dogs, but for our puppies as well, because that involves new sounds, new smells, new sights, potentially new people, and just again focusing on the quality of this experience. So it's awesome if you've taken your puppy out, you know, 15 times this week, but did they have a good time all of those trips, or did they not? So quality over quantity for sure. Bring lots of snacks with you, and when they encounter something novel, be excited about it. So, oh, that's a person over there, that's fantastic, and cheer with them and drop treats on the ground and make it super exciting. Allowing them to explore novelty at their own pace. So, you know, don't drag the puppy or coax them. Let's go, it's fine, you're good. Let them figure that out on their own, because they're going to feel more comfortable about that if they're allowed to approach it when they're ready. And being a lot of variety. So just taking your dog to the grocery store parking lot is great, but we need to do more than that. So there's really no limit to where we can and should be taking our puppies to show them things or give them experiences. But it all really falls back on how was that experience? Was it positive? Was it neutral? Or was it negative? Socialization, lack of socialization is really dangerous for our puppies' social development, but improper socialization is just as detrimental, or can be just as detrimental to them.
Right. And one thing I often take for granted is that people understand body language, and they often don't. So to understand how your dog might be feeling or responding to these social experiences, you do have to be pretty well versed in body language. Don't forget, anybody who's listening, that we have a free body language course on my website at bravodog.ca. Just the basics, but you really can't think you have to know, and based on those visual cues, or we could be in trouble. But there's a lot of misunderstanding with body language, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of the times we think that we know better. So, oh, that's nothing to be worried about. So you feel fine about it. But that's not always the case. We don't get to decide how the animal is feeling. My dog is 9 years old, and he had a fearful response to a snowman today. He's seen snowman before, but this one had quite a few appendages sticking out of it. And and that was frightening to him. And that's, I find that quite interesting, but we don't get to decide what our dog is afraid of or not. And we may not understand it, but if we understand the body language that says, hey, I'm worried about this, then at least we can respond more appropriately to that and help them in that situation.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on too is the reason why we are getting a puppy. What are the right reasons, and what are the wrong reasons to be getting a puppy? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's largely personal, but I think that right now we're seeing a lot of people getting puppies to fill maybe a void. This spare time is, they're maybe sick of their people that they're in self-isolation with. And I get that. I've been there too, but that's definitely not why we should be getting puppies. And we need to be thinking, about our lifestyles, and do they support that of a puppy? Will they support a dog in them in a year when the world is potentially back to normal? And that kind of goes back to vetting where our puppies are coming from. So, knowing what puppy we're getting. So are we bringing a border collie into a condo living situation? Because that has a lot of red flags popping up. Or, are we just getting this puppy because it's the only one accessible at this time, because everything else is taken? So we need to make sure that this is not an impulsive decision. And I worry that a lot of that is happening right now. Because potentially we're bored and we go, why not? Let's bring a dog in. And dogs are not something to be taken on a whim. They live for a long time, and they have needs and demands that, even some of us with the best intentions struggle to meet those. So making sure that this is a premeditated decision before we start shopping for that puppy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's tough as a human. We tend to be slightly impulsive sometimes.
Yeah.
Not speaking from experience at all. So when we decide we want something, we're in a world where we think we can access it right away. But I think for professionals like us, we really are just appealing to people to do their homework and to look for those red flags when, just because you got to think a year down the road, 2 years down the road, behavior problems are expensive financially and emotionally. We see this every day when we work with clients. And, you're seeing more reactivity cases. I've, from the beginning, been just seeing a stream of reactivity cases because that is what is that's what the community needs the most right now is help with reactivity, right? So it's not like we specialize. A lot of us don't specialize in it because we have made a conscious choice. It's just that's what is happening.
The demand.
So
Yeah.
The demand is there, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really, puppy classes and working with puppies is really a service to the community, because what we're trying to do is prevent this fear and aggression that can be a result of poor socialization, lack of socialization, and using the wrong training methods, which I don't want to forget that part too. But
Yeah.
what would you have to add about training methods and how that works with puppies?
Well, I mean, I think this part of the trouble is that dogs are so forgiving of our mistakes, which is a beautiful thing. But I think we take advantage of that. And there's so much science and research out there on aversive training methods that that's a whole other conversation. But in our early time with these puppies, we're building a relationship and we're building a bond. And what basis do we want to build that relationship on? So do we want it to be a mutual respect and trust, or do we want it to be based out of fear and intimidation? If I do it wrong, it hurts or it's scary, and there's no reason. There's no reason to be using punishment-based training techniques for our puppies, just because they're going to, potentially forgive us and let us go again. It's really upsetting to me to see puppies in prong collars or getting smacked on the nose for making a mistake, because guess what? These puppies do not come pre-programmed with a manual as to how to navigate our world. Our world is confusing and busy and overwhelming, and our expectations can often be unrealistic, or maybe they don't even know what the expectation is. So we need to appreciate that these puppies are navigating our world the best that they can, and it's up to us to lead them and guide them in a way that is not frightening or scary or damaging to their poor little developing brains and bodies. So just, I guess, have empathy for these little guys. They're just trying to figure it out, and we can teach them how, what our expectations are, how to navigate the world, how to respond in various situations in a very positive and respectful manner. And there is no situation in my mind that we would ever need to do otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes people forget that they've only been in this world for weeks. If you get a puppy at 8 weeks, and where their development is, they're not so advanced, nor do they even put, situations together where they're trying to do things out of spite or to piss us off.
Yeah.
There's a function behind the behavior.
Exactly.
So I think that the worst time to be implementing the wrong kind of training is going to be during that socialization window. So, I guess we can refer to it as, corporal punishment type training. But again, body language is really, really important. So despite what you think is, a positive experience for them, training or otherwise, it's really understanding that those subtle responses from your dog, that they are feeling intimidated or worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we often don't see the fallback of that corporal punishment approach to training immediately. It can be a cumulative thing, and then we get this dog, in adolescence, where adolescence is a really tricky time with dogs, anyways, who's finally decided this is enough, and that's I gotta say, probably 50% of the leash reactive dogs I see have previously been trained with punitive measures, and it's not a coincidence that these dogs are now coming up with behavior problems.
Yeah. And is it the general approach, or is it equipment, or both?
Both.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit here before we wrap things up. I'd love to hear about your book. Tell us about it and where we can get it.
Yeah, so I wrote this book the beginning of the year. It came out right in the midst of the pandemic, which was a little bizarre, but it's called Dog Care for Puppies. And it's basically an all-inclusive guide for new puppy owners, so people new to dog ownership or people who haven't had a puppy in a while. And it covers sort of the entire spectrum of puppy care. So it was really cool to pull knowledge from my previous career as a veterinary technologist, and also as a dog trainer trainer. So it covers things like how to select your puppy is the very first chapter in the book, and it goes all
That's
into
awesome.
how to choose a puppy to fit your lifestyle, what you should be doing when you bring your puppy home, and then early socialization. There's a whole chapter on socialization, feeding, health, grooming, and then a little bit about training. So it's a very skim the surface training portion to the book, because that would, we had to draw the line somewhere. But yeah, it's great. It's a super easy read. So it's, I think that, kids can be involved in reading it, and it's really all inclusive. So it's a great starting point for puppy owners.
Excellent. And where can they find that right now? Is it Amazon?
Yeah,
Indigo chapters? Yeah.
Amazon, Indigo are the easiest places to get it. It is available Amazon Prime, which is super awesome. And if you just search dog care for puppies, it'll pop up.
That would be a great Christmas gift, by the way, for anybody that that is getting a puppy over in the near future or has one right now. Get it for them. And tell us where people can find you on social media.
Yeah, so you can look for me on Facebook, Sit Pretty Pet Services. Same with Instagram, we're on there as Sit Pretty Pet Services. We try and post a lot of educational content, just talking about positive training methods, common behavior concerns, and just trying to get some content out there that's positive and enlightening for our dog owners. So you can send us a message that way. You can email us and to chat about whatever's on your mind. We love to interact with dog owners and answer questions. So.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think that there's some really valuable information that you shared with folks, and we hope to not be seeing your puppies for challenges as they get older, but we are here if you need us, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you. Take care.